Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to Symbaroum here on Telling Tales. We tell atmospheric tales via the medium of role-playing games, actual play stuff here on the internet. You know that. That's why you're here. More Symbaroum, the Witch Hammer. We are proceeding apace with this second part of the Throne of Thorns campaign. And tonight will be no different. If by apace, I mean stopping to sniff every available rose, adding in extra plot details that really aren't needed in order to turn what is quite a long campaign segment into a really long campaign segment. But there we go. Let's get the promo out of the way before we start bringing people on. If you check down below, there are a bunch of different links. There are links to YouTube and to Twitch. You're watching this on one of those two websites. Why not check out the other? You can catch us live on Twitch, and you can catch all of our VODs from our streams over on YouTube. There's also links to Patreon, to Discord, to social media. If those are your things, do check them out. Currently, we are running 3 weekly series with a lot of both intended and unintended summer breaks at the moment. Mondays is typically Vason, but that won't be coming back until I think they're taking 3 weeks off, and one of those weeks has already gone. So maybe about halfway through September, they will be back. Symbaroum, that's this on Wednesdays. No particular breaks planned. We're just carrying on, albeit with the occasional Wednesday off because of unforeseen reasons. And then Thursdays is a bit of a grab bag of various things that are going to be happening. Tomorrow is the very final episode of Cincinnati Chronicles, our long-running World of Darkness anthology series. And then not too long after that, we'll be picking up a fortnightly series of Wicked Ones, which Sam, not this Sam, but other Sam, regulars will know what I mean by that, will be running. And then we'll be back to finish off the big wet from Pierre. It's chaos. It's pure chaos. But hopefully you enjoy that, or at least don't hate it so much. We also run one-shots on a monthly basis, 1 or 2 of them a month. The next one is this Saturday, where I'll be running Hell Knight, an apocalyptic doom biker TTRPG. And that's on this Saturday, which is Saturday, the 26th of August, where we will be starting that around 3 p.m. BST. So tune in for that if that's something that interests you. It's all in our schedule. It's all in our events on our Discord. Check those things out. Okay, let's start rolling the players on. And then in addition to that, let's start talking about what's going on in the Witch Hammer. So first up today, and we'll be delivering our lovely recap as well, or at least our kind of meta recap. Hey, Chris.
Hello.
Chris comes to us as ever from his adorable bed, where he will be playing Steo, who is his long-running character in kind of Steo's long-running himself, in that he's an elderly, former infantryman and city guard turned reluctant and quite conscience-ridden adventurer. Yeah, I think that's a good description. And Chris, give us the Witch Hammer in 3 words or less. No, in your meta recap form. What's going on? Why should anyone care?
Well, this time, Matt, I'm going to do it the wrong way around. With details that shall be filled in shortly, you join us on a boat to the kind of northwestern corner of Lake Volgoma. We are en route to visit Fria Ligan, where we hope to find a key combination. Well, not Fria Ligan. The Isle of
Fria, Yeferon Isle is where
Yeferon Isle, where we will find the key combination, we hope, or at least we surmise, to connect all the dots. We have previously found a locking mechanism, and we have instructions as to how to navigate certain tunnels beneath the Northerners' kind of capital outcropping of Carvosti, where we think we will find our way to the ancient and cursed city of Symbar, titular to the title of the RPG Symbaroum. This is an El Dorado type place of almost limited wealth and fey and dangerous warnings and cursed items dripping off the walls from what the the rumors go. Amongst all this, these rumors of the final discovery of a concrete way to get to this city, a gold rush and a geopolitical sea change, a tectonic shift is occurring around us and putting Steo under a great deal of, and most of the party under a great deal of stress, as the Ambrian Empress is now marching north towards, we believe, Carvosti to take by force and set her own hooks into the city of Symbar. So we are butts leaves on this gale, but we think we're the ones who have the most ability to bring home the bacon, as it were. And for at least two members of the team, we're going there with the alternative goal of making sure that the cursed city remains unfoundable or unfindable, and thus protecting the forest, its citizens, and the citizens of Ambria and the Plains from all kinds of horrors.
That's a very, very good summary, Chris. Thank you so much. Yeah, that's what's going on with the Witchhammer. We'll introduce you to the players, and then I'll give a little bit of a summary myself as to what happened last time, and then we are all go. But speaking of those other players, let's bring on John and say hello to him. Hello to you, John. Hi.
Hello to me.
John plays Sir Arendar, final noble son of House Dar. Owner and operator of a battle cat and duelist, with a conscience similar to Steo, but it's fair to say naive enough that he lets that basically get in front of his feet at times.
Yeah, that's a fair way to put it.
Yeah. So what's Arendar feeling about all this?
Very conflicted. I mean, it seems like a simple enough quest. There is a place with a bunch of curses and bad stuff in it. So stop the people getting to the place with the bad stuff, which seems easy, apart from the fact that a lot of seemingly very nice and reasonable people are coming out of the woodwork and going, hey, if you trust us with all those secrets, we'll definitely keep that place safe. And of course, being Arendar, he wants to trust all of them, but knows that that doesn't work. You're on mute, Matt.
Yeah. Oh, I knew. I was just trying to do other things. Yeah, absolutely. That sounds about right to me. And to spin to the opposite side of sort of the alignment coin of the group from Arendar, let's get Stephen on to talk about Elindra. Hi, Stephen.
Hello. Look, she's a product of her environment and her upbringing.
Oh, I'm not criticizing her for it. I just,
that Templar training is very direct, and she's known nothing but a world of moral ambiguity.
It's not particularly fair. Like, you kill one completely unarmed prisoner who was totally at our mercy, and you get a reputation. Like,
right?
Political correctness gone mad.
Yeah. But that massacre at Blackmore was fine. So it's a confusing world, and she's a confused lady.
The woke mob won't even let you slaughter goblins in secluded dells off the road to a refugee camp anymore.
It was actively encouraged, but
yeah. Anyway, Elindra, as we've alluded to there, a former Templar novice turned adventurer. Stephen, does Elindra have any particular thoughts about current events?
I think her most immediate thoughts as of the point that the session starts is that she's just trying very, very hard to survive until the morning and make sure as many of the people around her do as well.
Yeah, sounds about right. So with that in mind, let's bring on another one of the people around Elindra. It's only Sam.
Hello.
Look, it's him. It's that one. Sam plays Ascarai, our resident changeling archer and scout and guide, and can be relied on for some quality DPS.
At times, when there's people far away from him, good.
Yeah. Pretty solid. And how is Askarai, Sam?
I think Askarai is still pessimistic overall about what we're doing. He's worried about what we're doing immediately in our immediate future. Feels like Yeferon, not a good place to be. Sounds very dangerous. The journey there doesn't sound good either. And then also in a more general sense, feels like we've almost certainly at this point already gone past the point of no return as regards to messing with forces far beyond us and are already screwed. So, like, may as well keep going, I guess.
Sure, absolutely. I can see that being very, very, very valid. And with that in mind, let's talk about exactly where you are and exactly what's going on. And while I do that, I'll bring up a little map. Or not. Oh, StreamYard, seriously. Sort this out. Or I will actually scream. There we go. Just took a while, I suppose. Okay. So you are on Lake Volgoma. Essentially, we'll go hugely into the details of the last session. You traveled from Kovosti to Jakar, which seemed basically a town on the edge of a nervous breakdown. Largely, it seems like Ambrians and clansfolk are fleeing Jakar with the idea that the Ambrians are about to come potentially rampaging into the forest and at Kovosti specifically. There were a lot of people auctioning off berths on boats traveling onto Volgoma. You managed to negotiate your way onto the crew of a Zarek captain called Kadra, who basically will take you to the north shore of Volgoma for, well, not for free, but rather than for coin, for your services as extra blades on her ship, because you seem to think that with the dying of winter and the coming of spring, that the waters of Volgoma would become less safe, and therefore a bit of extra muscle. Those fears may have been somewhat well founded, since upon leaving Jakar, not only did you notice that you were being watched, but also some kind of ship followed you from the port. But fairly swiftly after it was sighted at night, the Zarek crew put their shoulders into their punts and their oars and managed to speed away from whoever was pursuing you. So, there we go. Did I miss anything? That was about it, right? That was about it. Okay, then. Let's get on with the bloody role play. No, I didn't mean to do that. What's happening? Oh my god, I'm clicking on entirely the wrong things. Wonderful. There we go. I meant all that. That was intentional. Just a bit of a light entertainment for you.
Interpretive dance.
Yes. Yeah, that'll do. So obviously, you got away from that pursuing boat in the evening, and we will cut straight to the next morning, unless anyone has any objection. Captain Kadra and the Zareks seem to be making, from what you can tell, good time over Volgoma in the still growing heat of spring, clearly knowing the waters exceptionally well. Every now and then you pass an island, increasing slowly in frequency as the ship passes northwards. The islands look to mostly just be spits of land, overgrown with trees and vegetation, but a few of them have clear signs of older or current habitation. From one, there are several twisting columns of cooking fire smoke emerging above a canopy, and from another, some collapsing sandstone ruins are clearly visible among the trees. At all times through this day, the eastern shore of Volgoma is clearly visible, at most a couple of kilometers away. They seem to be hugging the eastern shore, and kind of, rather than cutting across the lake, very quickly it becomes apparent that the plan is to go all the way up along the eastern shore and then cross in one shorter trip, perhaps, when you reach a point further north that only the Zarek seem to know. would you like to know a little bit about, because the captain will have told you this, a little bit about the schedule of the ship and how it functions? I know, yeah.
Yes.
So essentially, and this becomes very apparent when you wake up the following morning after having, shared a somewhat cramped area below decks the previous night. First thing in the morning, after being anchored overnight, the ship starts moving at speed north. The captain explains to you that what they will tend to do is at the cooler parts of the day, first thing in the morning and last thing in the afternoon, they will travel at speed, whether it can be sail or whether it has to be punts or oars, and then the greater part of the middle of the day, they will move slowly and carry out their trade, which I don't know if we can guess what a medium-sized boat on a lake might be doing for their trade, but it is net fishing. And then late evening, they will again move fast and then find a safe place to put their anchor down overnight, and people will keep watch for sure. But that's the general schedule, and at the moment it is in that morning period of kind of like sailing quite hard in a northerly direction. Is there anything you particularly be doing on board? You don't have any duties other than if someone turns up looking for a fight. So it's up to you if you want to be doing anything, interacting in any way with the Zarex or with each other.
I feel like Elindra will have spent quite a lot of the night standing up at the back of the boat looking out behind us. So I think now that we've taken on some speed and there's a bit more light, I think she will be just resting, essentially. Like probably not sleeping, but kind of just sort of sitting with her eyes closed.
That's fine.
Listening.
Mm-hmm.
I think Askar might, kind of in line with what Elindra has been doing, just discuss with the rest of the group that maybe we should be like at least making a show of like having our general watch and kind of doing what we're getting our passage for, like making a show of being like we're protecting the boat in some kind of way, generally throughout the day and in the evening as well.
Yeah, that seems very sensible.
I'm going to be maybe chit-chatting with various Zarek as I come across them, but I'm also going to spend a lot of time pacing around the ship, making it look like I'm scanning the horizon, but I am actually just trying to keep Ferron busy so that he doesn't get bored and feral and savage one of the sailors.
Sure.
Because that won't go down well.
Yeah.
Eat all their fish.
Yeah.
To be fair, the Zarex seem neither intimidated nor unfamiliar with a meerkat, and occasionally Ferron is actually being thrown a fish. So, yeah.
Steo does not need any encouragement to go straight back into town guard mode and is spending most of his time on the poop deck, kind of looking out astern to see if there's any sign of our pursuers, under the assumption that the general trades and the duty of the navigator will have their gaze forward, but maybe not necessarily astern.
Absolutely. Well, then it sounds like everyone is kind of being slightly as much on patrol as you can be on the relatively small deck of the ship, but kind of keeping yourself aware and like on duty rather than necessarily directly interacting with people. As I say, when you are traveling hard, essentially when the sail can be unfurled, it is, and when not, the crew sets to making good progress. And as the time moves towards sort of mid-morning-ish, the ship noticeably slows, and everyone starts doing various tasks around the deck, somewhat arcane-looking ones from your perspective, to do with coating various parts of the ship with a sort of sticky tar-like substance that smells quite Quell smells quite sap-like rather than necessarily actually being tar, but it seems to do a roughly equivalent job. There are people kind of resetting lines and kind of like repairing small broken wooden bits around the ship, and at the same time about half the crew are engaged at the back of the ship with like a relatively large set of nets kind of trawling them through the water behind the ship as it slowly glides forward.
Point of
Chris,
order: a ship. A point of order: a ship underway wouldn't have lines.
okay. Well, whatever the equivalent, they're tying knots, all right.
That's fine, but they'd be tying them in a warp or a sheet,
Okay, that's what they're doing.
or maybe a halyard.
Good, good.
I feel like I need to make some kind of cunning roll.
I didn't like. I did a little bit of looking up this stuff, right? Not this, but I did a little bit, and I thought, oh, Chris might be quite pleased with some of them. Like, for example, I measured the speed quite accurately as to what it might be with this level of technology on this kind of water. But no, he just shat over it immediately by just saying, no, you won't.
It doesn't matter what kind of knot you'd chosen or how carefully researched. Chris was going to tell you were wrong there.
Yeah. Even if I was right, probably. So yeah.
I was so happy to find something. I'll be honest with you. I was just delighted.
I'm pretty sure Chris made the name of all those nuts up.
Would you be interested to know, Chris, that the high speed level of travel they are is 5 knots? Would that?
Oh,
does
wow.
that make you happy?
4 as well. That's really good. That does make me happy.
It's actually roughly equivalent for a vessel of this size and type. Sail out on the sea might be faster, but lake sailing and punting or rowing is all about 5 knots for this size of and type of vessel. It's just obviously if it's sailing, it's less.
That is slow.
Physically draining. I mean, it's slow by modern motorized standards.
Yeah. I just mean like
that's still 10 kilometers an hour. You know,
I'd be happy with that on a boat, not a big boat, but a small boat.
Yeah. Anyway, that's what's going on. And as I say, as you enter the middle part of the day, like the travel slows a lot, and instead the ship is moving slowly, gathering, fishing and repairing and tying knots but not lines, and all these kind of things. And presumably, like I would expect, like if they're also like trying to moderate the speed of the ship, and if there is wind, they would be adjusting the sails accordingly, right, to maintain a slower speed. Yeah. Does that change what anyone's doing, or does anyone have any interest in these things that are happening, or are we just kind of maintaining our?
I think as things get busier, Steel will be switching to something else he learned from guarding, but that is specifically like intuiting how to not get in anyone's way.
Sure. Yeah. Ensuring you're out of everyone's way and that no one asks you to help with anything.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. Steele's going to rely on the other party members to offer some help after the rowing situation the other day.
Yeah,
I mean the row went quite well for Alindra. I think she will attempt to maintain a sort of a facial expression and an unspoken stance of like, we'll try to help if asked, but yeah, otherwise staying out of the way.
Yeah, the Zarex will. They may well accept help on certain things if it's offered.
Almost certainly not.
They're not going to ask.
Yeah, and I'm not going to.
They don't want some clumsy fingered Ambrian mucking things up without the proper instruction. No.
Yeah, that's fair enough. But like looking willing.
Mm-hmm.
I think Askray will take an interest at least in the fishing, what they're doing, and what they're trying to catch, that kind of stuff. He has a fishing line. I don't think he's particularly good at fishing, but it feels like it's a skill that could be useful in the future. So it would at least be like just trying to learn a little bit from watching them and seeing what they're doing, even if it is a different kind of fishing.
Yeah, I mean, the net will certainly stir up fish enough that actually dropping a line next to the net might actually get you some fish.
At times, I think Askrai, probably not the whole day, but maybe for like an hour break at something in the middle of the day, might throw a line out.
Yeah, and if you do this, the Zarex will kind of watch you do this and kind of like take a look at kind of your line and your gear and stuff. They're clearly familiar with fishing rods and lines themselves, and will kind of like clearly be quite interested in what you're doing, and like it's a little bit of a distraction from the thing they do every day, right? So they're all quite interested in you doing this. Shall we have let's have a roll to see how well you do with it, right? Okay. Who here, because I have never gone fishing, all right? Has anyone here gone fishing?
A long time ago.
A long time ago.
A little bit.
Which stat? Because I'm thinking either cunning or strong. Depending, right? Because like there's a certain amount of strength needed, right? If you're especially on an old-fashioned fishing line, if you're pulling in a fish.
I think vigilant.
I was going to say vigilant because you need to like it's not just sitting and waiting for the fish. You need to like
it's
hunt
timing
it down.
Yeah.
I was gonna suggest vigilant, but that felt very biased
very
for me to say. So like, didn't want to.
Well, no, you know what, Askarai, why don't you give us a vigilant roll to see how you do with this fishing?
I rolled an 8, so I make it.
Yeah, you pull up a reasonable sized lake fish, which I'm gonna say, so maybe like salmon sized. I mean, I could just say it's a salmon. Yeah, you reel in a salmon, which seems like a fairly decent catch, and certainly something that will be a pleasant treat from your rations.
Askar will do his best to hide how proud he is in front of the fisherman of his salmon catch.
No, a good couple of them that kind of come over and take a look at it and seem, they're not impressed. They're fishermen, but they're like, yeah, they seem to think it's a decent enough catch, and one or two of them give you, as I say, the Zarex are quite kind of physically friendly people, and they give you a kind of clap on the back and a sort of reassuring nod. They even, they're going to invite you over to help them with the nets.
Okay, that's right. We'll gladly do his best to help.
Okay. Do you want to give me a cunning roll?
Okay. Oof. I think my cunning is definitely worse. I need a 10 or less. A 13, not quite.
Yeah. You don't feel like you've picked up too many fundamentals of net fishing. But you help them heave in the nets, and you help them kind of pull out the fish, and you kind of get a rough idea of how they kind of lay it in the water, but you definitely need to watch or practice it more to be able to sort of do it yourself. But it's certainly, it's quite engaging to help them with that. You're not sure you'd want to do it every day.
Yeah. Stick to my line.
How about I think did Theo already said? No, Lindra said that she was kind of taking a bit of a rest.
Yeah. This morning I did. I think when we slowed down, I think when Askarai pulls out the line fishing, she will suddenly remember that and sort of rummage around in her pack. She does actually have a fishing net.
Oh, okay.
But the question would be: is there a place to throw that out?
Yeah,
and not going to get in the way of the nets that are already out there.
And I'd say if it's a personal fishing net, I'd say it's probably not usable from the deck of the ship.
Okay.
So I think it's too high up, because I think like if it's a fishing net one person uses to catch fish, it's going to be something where you like wade into shallows and throw it, right?
Okay.
So I suspect it's not terribly usable from the deck of where you are.
Then Elindra will put the net back and say nothing.
Fair enough. How about Steo and Arindar?
I don't think I'm not engaging in this frivolity. I'm guarding and staying out of the way of the professionals.
This frivolity of sustenance, gathering of food.
I'll chat around, and again, like it's another thing. I'll help out if asked, but they won't ask.
They won't ask. No.
But I'll, engage any of them that speak Ambrian in conversation about their jobs.
The captain definitely speaks Ambrian. Like the others, you get you think they understand more Ambrian than they directly speak. And definitely, if one is like exchanging a few words with you, they'll try and maybe do it in Ambrian. But you get the impression that, like, to a certain degree, and you of course have encountered Zarex before on the west coast of Volgoma. Go watch Fetters of Stone, folks. Our Symbaroum spin-off. Like there is maybe a sense of, from a lot of Ambrians, especially around Thistlehold, that most of the barbarians, they'll speak Ambrian when needed. You think you've definitely been under the impression in the recent months and on overall your travels that is basically a symptom of Ambrians around Thistlehold being very exposed to the Odavs, who largely do speak Ambrian. Other clans, definitely not so much. Zarex and Carrots, yeah, a little bit, but not all of them. And these are kind of an example of, like, the person who needs to do the talking to Ambrians, the captain, speaks Ambrian. But that's about it, really, in terms of fluency, at least. So the day carries on. The Zarex seem to pull in a decent haul. And then as a late afternoon rocks up, the ship, the nets are pulled in, the kind of repair supplies and things are tucked away, and the ship starts moving fast again, gliding over the relatively still surface of Volgoma directly to the north. And a few hours later, the captain orders that the ship kind of, like, it isn't exactly a bay on the coast of Volgoma, but it is kind of like what would you call it? An inlet, a kind of curve on the coast that allows for some like cover from the elements a little bit. The ship glides into there. The anchor is put down. Food is brought out for everyone. Unsurprisingly, largely fish. A great deal of dried fish, but some fresh catch as well. Ascarai, are you kind of throwing your salmon in there for the?
We'll
pot?
definitely throw the salmon in as a contribution.
The Zarex seem very happy about that. It seems like you've made quite a significant gesture to them, and your salmon is kind of like cut up and seared on a fire, and part of it is kind of the bones, and the fat of it is scraped into a broth. And yeah, there are some other stuff as well. There's some fruits and nuts that are added to it and handed out to everyone. One of the Zarex pulls out an instrument not unlike a fiddle, and yeah, everyone is basically relaxing on deck, although a couple of the Zarex are still pacing the edges of the ship, keeping a watch as the sun goes down.
I don't know if everyone else agrees, but I feel like we'd probably want to have one of our party on this watch as well while everything's happening.
Agreed.
Absolutely. But you know what? If you want to do any role playing, let's say that DeGesto will take this and is kind of stomping around the edges of the deck, smoking one of his foul-smelling cigars and kind of gazing out over the where the light is kind of still just dusting the horizon, and everything else is mostly dark, honestly, apart from the light of the fires and torches on the ship.
Has the captain given any indication of how long we expect to be on the lake before we get to where we're going to? Like how many days?
Yeah, I'd say, well, have you asked about... I think it's a fair assumption you would have asked her.
Yes, sure.
She expects to get to where she's taking you tomorrow evening.
Okay.
Because again, I calculated it. So I think you're traveling around 80 kilometers a day. But you didn't think about it. It's pretty fucking good.
Yep.
In a pre-industrial society.
Yeah, not bad.
And how... oh, sorry. I was just going to ask how far we are from the shore in this bay.
You are currently about a kilometer from the shore.
Oh, okay.
So it's very visible, or was before the sun went down. But
But
It's
not
a
like-
distance, you know.
Not archery range, unless they're very,
No.
very good.
Even if they're very well,
no.
a crossbow can go over a kilometer just about, but a
Yeah,
bow
it's not a thing, is it?
I did also look this up for various. I've looked this up
For
multiple
reasons.
times for over this campaign, and I know the records of distance on different kinds of bows. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll kind of, while we're kind of probably sat in our own little huddle, getting the dinner. Well, if we're slowing down during the day, do you think that pursuer is going to bother catching up with us?
It's possible. I mean,
I suppose the answer to that.
we're fast in the mornings and the evenings, but if we're slower in the daytime and we're stopping at night, then a dedicated pursuer, but that assumes that they know where we've gone.
I think everyone knows where we're going. That's the problem. I suppose the main question is the price on our heads high enough to warrant them making a commitment to a longer voyage?
I mean, one thing to think about is the way we're going. I think we're going pretty quickly, but would someone going directly across the lake get to where we're headed faster than we're going to get there? Maybe not pursuing us so much as cutting us off.
Or
Like
getting
an
there
ambush?
first.
Oh,
Yeah.
like a race.
And maybe
Perhaps.
not just a race to Yeferon. Maybe they're going to go and, I don't know, seed the settlements, lay some kind of political trap. Who knows? God, I've given up trying to work out how this world is conspiring to screw us over.
I am going to take some comfort in the fact that if our captain decided not to take that direct route, she will have done so for a reason. Whether that's because the fishing's better here or because it's safer, I don't know.
I don't think it's a bad decision. I just think it's something to be aware of. Maybe it's possible people could have left at the same time as us, or even slightly after us, but still get to where we're going to be before we get there. Just to have in mind.
I mean, anyone could have set off 2 hours before we arrived at Jakar, you know.
Yeah.
What are we
It's
going to
gonna be-
do? What are we going to do
Aaron-
about the Queen?
The Queen. I'm leaving that to you, Ambrians.
God, I'm not going to lie. I don't want to have to. I don't want to have to go up against the Queen.
I think the Queen and the Rangers and any of the other people that will be out for either our information or our blood, should this part of the plan work, feels a little bit like a future thing that's going to kill us after the more immediate things that are going to kill us. So I'm focusing more on those.
That's very wise. That is very wise.
Does seem fair.
My most immediate problem is getting to Yeferon in one piece. And after that, the next problem becomes getting off Yeferon in one piece. And after that, we'll see.
Aaron, I think you've had the most dealings with the Zarks. Are they all as friendly as this lot?
All the ones I've met have been. They welcomed us into their village with, open arms, and as I say, helped us north after dealing with a small but violent problem that had been plaguing them. So, yes, they seem opening and welcome and happy to trade, whether through obligation or goods.
That's a very positive sign. I can't imagine they're going to take us to Yeferon for free.
No.
So
We are, however, up on our accounts, given that payment for this voyage is in labor and not thaler.
definitely, hopefully that leaves us with enough left over to get to Yeferon.
Right, I'll take watch off the Guesto. Steele kind of finishes the last of his fish broth. These old eyes aren't going to be much use in the gloaming, so I'll get first watch in.
Okay. Unless there's anything anyone else wants to do, shall we proceed with the night? Okay. Well, the night goes without any kind of incident. You keep kind of like moving around, kind of, you alter the watch between you as you normally would. You've obviously got kind of an extra pair of eyes with Malamai now as well, who seems more than willing to take on these duties. Just out of interest, like this is just purely out of interest, obviously. How many of you would you say are on watch at any one time? There'll definitely be at least 2 Zarek already.
I think for quite a while now, we've been in the habit of 2 people on watch if we can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
It makes sense with how many people we've got.
Yeah,
There's 8 of us now, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
absolutely. And I think like that, with 2 Zarek on watch as well, it seems, it's not a very large ship, so kind of like keeping an eye out seems very straightforward with 4 people. Although obviously you get the sense that Zarek can tell what's going out on the water a lot more than you can. You basically can't see anything apart from the motion of the waves under the moon, which is out. So there's that. But otherwise, nothing. Occasionally, one of the Zarek will kind of stop and peer out carefully for a minute or so before seemingly being satisfied and walking away. Most of the time, you had no idea what they were looking at. But then the dawn comes. And the sun rises warmer still than the day before, almost stifling, even on deck. The sail is furled up, unless sails aren't furled up on ships in this particular configuration. And the ship turns west. Progress mostly being made by punting and then rowing as it crosses Volgoma at the southernmost reach of what you can now see are a great many more clustered islands to the north. Clouds of insects are visible, and the ship angles slightly when rowing to avoid especially large gatherings of biting flies.
I think at some point...
Go ahead.
There you go ahead.
Is there any shade on the deck? Like, do they have things? Is it if you're out on the deck? Are you in?
You know
sun?
what? That's a great thing. That's a great idea, and I think they'll have. You don't know if they're kind of sheets that maybe at some point double up as part of the sails, or whether they're just for the purposes of this. But yeah, you know what? There'll be sort of rope set up along the length of the deck, and sheets are set up to kind of cover the rowers and punters from the sun a little bit. They don't go a huge amount of way into the deck, but enough to like sort of keep shade.
Okay. Content warning for misuse of nautical terminology.
That's fine. I've never claimed to know it.
What
are they called, Chris?
Well, you can't say sheet because a sheet is a line that's attached to a sail that's under power. So
I mean, I can say sheet. I can.
You can. You're welcome to.
Because I'm describing the thing to other non-sailors.
Yeah, that's not good enough. Not for me. What I would like to do is at some point, Steele's going to notice the fact that we're dodging the insects, and he will kind of, if he's found someone who speaks pretty good Ambrian, he'll just ask what can we do to? Is there anything you can put on yourself to stop them biting you?
Are you finding the captain to do this, or trying to find a Zarek nearby you who might speak?
I think the captain is probably not busy, so not super busy on these kind of long stretches. So I will approach the captain if I can find her.
Sure. She kind of listens carefully to you and kind of points out an older Zarek who you've kind of got the impression might be maybe like the first or second mate. And says to go speak to him about it. You go over to him, and he does not speak Ambrian, but with some, pantomime of insect bites sort of things. He nods and digs down underneath his rowing bench and brings out like a little pot of some kind of slightly translucent, kind of whitish but slightly translucent. It looks a bit like God.
Like Vaseline.
Yeah, it looks a bit like Vaseline, but it's clearly not made of like of an industrial process like that is,
Sure.
but like some kind of Vaseline-like substance, which he kind of like again gets a little bit and pantomimes kind of putting it on his neck and on his face and offers it to you.
I'll definitely kind of take a sniff and kind of.
It smells like some kind of, again, tree sap or potentially like ground fungus or mushroom. But it also smells like it's been soaked thoroughly in alcohol.
Okay. I think I'll share this knowledge with the group kind of abstractly. That's if we do get caught up in bugs, we can get our way around it with this.
Sure. So, is anyone else doing anything as you make speed along the northern part of Volgoma?
I think Alindra is going to be mostly looking out over the islands and kind of thinking, if pirates, would these kind of archipelagos be a good place from which to launch an ambush, and just be on the lookout for those.
Sure, absolutely. And you know what? As you do this, you do note that the Zarex, who are kind of like keeping an eye out on the waters, focus most of their attention towards the clustered islands to the north. So you suspect your intuition may be pretty spot on with that one. So anyone else for anything else?
Well, Aaron knows from experience that this is pirate country, so Aaron will also be on watch.
Absolutely. How about Ascarai?
I think while the ship's going fast, Ascarai would try and crowd into the shade. And once it slows down, might do another bit of fishing.
Sure. Sorry, were you going to say something else there, John? Did I cut you off? No. Okay. Well, those of you paying a bit of extra attention find that to be rewarded. As the morning wears on and the ship slows to carry out more fishing, which is doing near a particularly large island covered in what look to be sort of partly hewn large stone blocks, some kind of old abandoned quarry, a craft really not attempting to hide itself very much rows around the headland of the island. It's about half the size of the Zarex ship, has no visible sail, and glides with considerable speed due to the effort of about 20 individuals heaving at oars. It comes to a stop about 300 meters away, and there is a large figure stood at the bow. Something they're holding is glinting in the bright spring sun.
Well, if they're not already alerted, we'll alert.
Oh, they definitely are. Yeah. There's a little bit of talking and some non-panicked shouting, and you hear the captain shout out some orders, which he then repeats in Ambrian, for everyone to gather at the starboard side of the ship, the one facing them.
Okay.
You notice the Zarex are kind of drawing what weapons they have and just kind of holding them in a very prominent fashion.
Yeah, it's time to look big.
I will do my best dissuading large guard impression as close to the gunnels of the boat as possible, so I'm very visible.
I will draw my swords, and I will also try and peer at whatever the head of the boat is holding.
Absolutely. Can you give me a cunning roll, please?
I pass.
You would wager money that that individual is holding an eyeglass.
Right. Okay.
Because they seem to be kind of holding it up to their face, and it glints when they do so. They're getting a good look at the ship, is what they're doing.
So if there's 20 people on board that ship, how many are there on this one?
I mean, there's nearly 20 with you lot on board.
Okay.
And while the Zareks all of them are armed, they're not hugely impressive arms. Like they're like ship's hooks.
Yeah.
An axe here or there.
Mostly repurposed fishing and sailing gear.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's what, like 10-ish Zareks and the 8 of us against. Yeah. Okay.
Do you know, Matt? You know my spear that no one really knows anything about. How shiny is the bronze on it?
Oh, very shiny. Well, I'm assuming you've had it polished a lot since arriving back.
Steel probably does polish it quite a bit.
As befits its amazing backstory.
Yeah, certainly, whatever. If it's quite shiny, I'm going to say, can I align myself in such a way that I can send a sundog or a sun reflection just to kind of blind the...
Yeah, sure, you could definitely do that. You could, just to like make sure it's shining in the sun. Yeah, what,
I'm going to just...
give me either a cunning or an accurate roll. I think both of those could work for that.
Here we go. That is a pass.
Yeah, absolutely. You can even see like a splash of light on the surface of the water, like over there. They can definitely see that you're like, and you're already like, are you wearing your armor? I don't know if you would.
Yes, I think
ship.
I would. Yeah.
Okay.
I would. I'm aware it's a very bad idea, but I would.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? Further down the line, Asker, I think you'd spot this first, probably. There is a Zarek with a small hunting bow, and kind of he has like an arrow, and he's sort of like peering at the 300-meter distance and looking at the bow, and he seems to be definitely thinking about firing an arrow to like as a kind of warning shot, but he seems very doubtful about his ability to. He doesn't seem to be like he seems to be deciding against it because it is a very long way to fire an arrow.
What does Askrai has a composite bow, I think. Although that sounds very modern, but I'm pretty sure that's what I've got. Yeah,
no, it does sound modern, but all it is describing the way that the bow is built.
How does Askrai feel about his chances of reaching these people in the boat?
It's a hell of a shot. 300 meters with any bow that isn't a crossbow is a hell of a shot. But you think it's doable. Probably not with like a hunting bow like the Zarek has.
Okay. Askrai would have an arrow in his bow, but it's not like Askrai knows he doesn't understand this situation exactly and is waiting to see what happens for sure.
Do you have any flaming arrows, Askrai?
I don't think I do. I every time we go to a town, I think I should buy some of these like weird arrows that you can get, but I never end up actually doing it. So I think I've only got normal arrows.
Okay. I mean, a normal arrow is kind of a flaming arrow if you just wrap something around it and set on fire. But it will massively reduce the range, and the accuracy. And people just generally didn't do it, even though they do it all the time in films that have arrows.
It's just because boats, isn't it?
It's because it looks pretty.
Yeah.
I see. Well, and flaming arrows are almost exclusively used by navies in the past, not for that very reason.
Yeah, because then you just have to hit the big wooden target and
set it on fire. Yeah. Absolutely. As you are kind of like getting your bow out, Askrai, Malamai kind of comes up next to you, and he has his bow out as well, which is kind of, it's also a hunting bow, but a much larger and more impressive one. It's kind of comparable to a longbow, essentially, and he has an arrow kind of knocked, and he looks over at you with a sort of ready grin and says, "A shilling to see who gets closer, Master Askrai."
All right. I'll take that action.
He nods happily and says, "You first."
Askrai will look at Cadra.
Cadra.
And
Are you sure? Yeah.
any objection to a warning shot, Captain?
She has like a quite large sort of. It's essentially kind of like a club studded with diamonds of metal that she has kind of like over her shoulder. It looks like it might be quite a useful tool for hammering things, and in this case, those things might be other people. And she shrugs and says, "I think we're putting on a good showing already, but I'm sure it won't hurt."
Okay. Ascari is going to fire. I mean, he's going for distance, but he'll aim, if possible, at the person who also has a bow.
Sure, absolutely. Aim at the person who the person with the bow is on your ship.
Isn't there a person on there? Oh, there's
No.
nobody
It was a Zarek on your boat who was kind of
Okay.
like looking a bit. You can't see them close enough to tell if they've got bows or anything. Like
Okay.
that.
In that case, we'll aim for the person who has the glinting shiny
Sure.
thing.
I mean, aiming is a relative thing
Yeah.
at this distance. Like you think Malamai's just wants to see who can get an arrow further. Honestly.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you give me? I'm going to need 2 rolls. First is going to be a strong roll at -2, and the
That's
next
not
is going to be
go
an
well.
accurate roll at -2.
Accurate. Okay. Neither of these are going to go well. What's my strong? Strong is 7 at -2. I need a 5.
Oh, what? Sorry, what do you replace your accurate with? When you vigilant, you can use that then, but the strong still needs to be strong. Also, you're on mute.
The strong is strong. The other one can be.
It could be vigilant. Yeah, if that's your accurate, then I don't see any reason to penalize you for.
The strong definitely fails. That was a 16. I need a 5.
Sure.
The vigilant passes. I got an 8. I needed 16.
Okay, let me roll for Malamai. He said, inventing his stats on the spot. So I'll roll for his strong. Okay, and then another one for his accurate, which is going to be. Yeah. Okay. Sure. So your arrow, Ascarai, stays very on track with the boat itself, but falls quite a way short. Probably about 2/3 of the way to them, so about 200 meters out, your arrow sinks into the waves of Volgoma, which still isn't bad. A 200-meter shot is not bad, especially on like a shifting. The ship is gently moving in the water.
Okay.
Malamai's is much better. Malamai
Yeah.
sinks through the waves, probably about 5 meters in front of the craft you're facing up to. Several of the Zareks kind of they gave a little like murmur of appreciation for your arrow, and then Malamai's sets them all to cheering, and even you even hear some impressed shouting and laughing from the presumed pirates in the other craft.
That's where we'll get a shilling out.
Malamai looks very happy. Says, "Thank you. I can't believe I did that."
That's a great shot. Let's hope for more of that if anything kicks off.
He does. It's worth noting how I think I've described him before. He's very tall, very kind of rangy, and clearly you get the impression maybe from his build he looks like he grew up maybe on a farm. He's like got quite a powerful, rangy build. Really ideal for archery and getting a good draw on that longbow of his. So, yeah.
Please don't form any strong emotional bonds with this guy, just historically.
A minute or so later, when the cheering and the shouting dies down, the figure on the bow of the other craft raises an arm in an almost cheery wave, and the craft turns before vanishing back around the headland of the island.
I'll turn to Ascari and Malamai and just say, "Well done."
It's a team effort.
We'll keep watching in case they want to come back for another try.
The captain wanders over and says, "Well done. I worry that if you weren't here with your armor and your weapons and your bows, they may have taken the chance."
That's what we're here for.
Keep an eye out for the rest of the day, but I suspect we did drive them off.
Yep, we'll keep earning our passage.
She nods in appreciation, and the crew sets about fishing again. Is anyone doing anything in particular this afternoon? I think Askrai, you said you were doing a bit more fishing.
Yeah, I would probably. I mean, a little bit, but I think we'll be more focused on keeping watch than the day before, given what's happened.
Sure, absolutely. If there's nothing else from anyone else, then the rest of the day honestly goes very calmly. After the fishing is done, when the heat over the lake is dying down a little bit, you find the ship kind of gliding forwards again through the waters quite happily. As it gets darker, the islands to the north of you turn from kind of distinct entities into kind of just masses of shade and shadow on the horizon as you make your way towards the west shore of the lake. And then as this last hard sail sort of starts dying down, you can see firelight clearly visible ahead of the ship as it comes to the western shore of Volgoma. The anchor is dropped, and 2 rowboats are being lowered into the water. The captain seems to be making, like a couple of the other Zareks and the captain seem to be making ready to go in them.
Okay. Maybe we would ask the captain, is this home for you or some of the crew?
No, but we know them. We know this village. They can help you go the rest of the way.
What about yourselves? What's your plan?
Some of us will go ashore overnight. Not myself. I'll be introducing you to the headman and then coming back aboard. Some of us will stay over and then we'll be gone early in the morning.
Are you heading down the coast? I mean, you brought us on board for safety. It still feels dangerous in these waters.
We'll be fine. We are near several villages, enough that raiders are few and far between, or well equipped enough for us to not have any purpose in worrying about them.
Okay, that's good to know. Thank you.
She nods and kind of indicates for you to. There's her and a Zarek and the kind of second mates who Steo talked to, and another Zarek in the rowboats now, and they seem ready to take you on board and take you to shore.
Go join the rowboats, or one of them.
Absolutely. Okay. You clamber down the side of the ship, kind of rope ladders are dropped to help you clamber down to the rowboats, and they slowly make their way ashore. You think you're only maybe even just the same distance as the pirates were from you to the stony shore of western Lake Volgoma, and it doesn't take long for you to clamber through the cold waters until solid land is beneath you once again. On this stony shore, lit by torches and a large fire that sprang up a few minutes before, stand a number of Zarek villagers, calm, curious. As the captain comes ashore, they clearly know her and greet them happily. The captain kind of turns after the initial greetings and waves towards you and speaks in Zarek to the villagers. Anton leans in and says, she is introducing us and saying why we are here. They do not seem surprised about where we are going. but they seem to take it rather seriously.
I am not surprised at their lack of surprise, to be honest with you. Aaron,
Hey.
do you recognize the place?
Not
Like,
at all.
given your rough knowledge of where you are and your rough knowledge of the travels of the caravan in Fetters of Stone, you're fairly sure you were a significant distance north from where you were then.
Right.
If I am recalling my story correctly.
Yeah, I was thinking we were definitely further east than where we were, because I seem to remember them near the top outlet of Lake Volgoma, because we went up the river, didn't we?
Did you?
Did we?
Did you?
I think it was all on the shore of the lake, I'm afraid.
I think it was all on the shore of the lake, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Let's me wait for this image to come up. If
It's up.
going to.
What's up for me?
Is it?
Not up for me.
Not for anyone else?
No.
Nope.
Ooh. Well, that's different.
That's
That's new.
Always keeping us on our toes.
It's not up for Twitch.
Oh no! Wait. Yeah, I removed it and put it
Oh.
back up. This is actually getting quite bothersome. Let me try and now. Did it work last week? Did I try a thing where I changed it the kind of screen share it was? And did
I think you did, because that's what worked for me. If you share it via a Chrome tab, then it works.
Yeah, I can't do it via Chrome tab, but I can do it via application window rather than screen. But no, it's not. Oh, hang on. There we go. Does that work?
Hey. Yes,
Okay.
I think.
So to go into it, is me putting the mouse on it fucking with it like it used to do?
No.
Great. Okay. So obviously you've come from Karvosti to Jakar here. Now you think somewhere along this coastline here, and I'm fairly sure that in Fetters of Stone you went into the forest here and went up the shore, and I think you ended up around here.
Oh, okay.
So I think you were like quite a ways from there, I think.
Right.
I could be wrong. It was only my story, wasn't it? Why would I know?
Yeah, it was ages ago.
It was a long time ago. Okay, there we go. Anyway. As the conversation continues in front of you, the captain turns and leads Zarek forward to you, an older, white-haired and spry-looking man with a kind of carefully clipped goatee beard. She introduces him as the village headman called Maram.
I will step forward and introduce myself and go in for a Zarek hug.
Yeah, we discussed that was kind of their greeting, right? Kind of like a close cheek-to-cheek sort of hold. He nods and kind of smiles at you as you do this, and seems to kind of appreciate you knowing this, and then kind of moves. I think assumes that the rest of the group also knows this, which you probably do by now, and kind of moves through the group doing this. And once that is done, he steps back and speaks in slightly heavily accented but perfectly serviceable Ambrian. He says, you seek Yeferon.
Yes.
You are sure?
Yes.
You know what is there?
We have been warned of at least some of the dangers, yes.
He nods, and you see him kind of reach into a pouch at his belt, withdraw a powder of some kind, and murmur something before he kind of flicks the powder into a nearby fire, which briefly sparks and flares with a green color. We can help you. But first, rest. It is night. I must think of payment. And you should take time to reconsider. Please, food, rest. He indicates kind of like further up on the rise of the shore where it gives way from kind of stone to earth, where you can see like there's definitely light coming from over a ridge of kind of earth, and beyond that presumably the village, which you can't quite see from here.
I will give kind of a passing salute to the captain and start to make my way up the shore.
Yeah, the captain will gladly bid her kind of farewells to all of you and wish you good luck, and that she hopes she will see you on the lake again.
Thank you.
Yeah, give her a Zarek thing, greeting, goodbye.
As you pass the second mate, Steo, he pauses and gives you, brings you in for one of those Zarek clasps. And as you part, you see he is giving you, left in your hand, a small pot of the insect repellent.
Oh, I'll be very thankful.
Okay. A couple of other Zarek have come down onto the shore and lead you over the ridge. Their own village seems to be a mixture of roundhouses and standing tents and lean-tos, with a central large roundhouse built in a very sturdy fashion on a foundation of carved stone and hefty timbers that has clearly stood for quite a long time. The place where you seem to have been granted to rest is a very large tent. It has kind of like some platters of fresh food left out in it, mainly fruits, nuts, and other vegetarian fare, though with some fish as well. Two armed Zarek sit on stumps covered in piled furs opposite your tent. They do not seem particularly concerned that you are dangerous, but clearly want to take some precautions. You don't seem to be restricted in any way in your movement.
I'm beginning to think we should just forget the whole Yeferon our business and become Zarek mercenaries or whatever they need.
This seems great.
It does, doesn't it? But if we are careful in our duties, we will be able to save a great many lives. And if we are negligent in them, then we will have a few months of joy by the lakeside until some other poor creature unleashes whatever 9 hells lie in that cursed city.
As a counterpoint, what if nobody else manages it? And we just stay here, out of the reach and not of interest to the Queen or her rangers?
I'm starting to think that the forest might need to be home at some point, Alindra, and I'm not quite there yet.
Well, there are worse places to stay than here. I'm not saying that we should definitely abandon all of this, but I'm saying it warrants consideration.
We should have asked while we were on Kavasti who else was in the running. I mean, if word of us is getting around, then surely if anyone else is close, then people would know about them.
Well, Anton said none of the Zarek were particularly surprised that another group of Southerners were making this journey, so don't think we're the first.
No, well, we know that Yosefia's crew struck out for Yeferon, so that's at least one, although they did not come this way. Otherwise, more of them would be alive. But clearly, we're not the first. Clearly, we're not the first to come through.
But Yosefia's crew were unsuccessful, and we don't know if anyone else has made the trip to New Earthmore. My point is, out of the three places to consider. We don't know where we are in the standing.
The only people we know who have probably had at least some success are the Black Cloaks. And then maybe, was it Cleaver? Or something like that we saw at the Sun Temple dock.
Yes.
Unless we forget that fateful first night when we heard the rumors, some of the Thistlehold Guard brass set off as well. No news on them.
Yeah, but
Weren't they heading in this direction?
Marvello
Yeah.
told you he was heading west first, which would be Yeferon.
So perhaps even Marvello and his crew came through here.
at least we could, hope that they would be friendly should we encounter them anywhere on this journey.
If
I
they've
think
got,
that kind of luck has long run out.
if they have any sense, they will have been and gone on Yeferon a long time ago.
Died.
Or died, yeah.
What about the High Chief's offer?
To
If
give
we're,
the
if we're considering not pursuing this to its logical conclusion, getting as much information as we can, if there's still a High Chief to go back through, we can use that information as leverage to buy security, or maybe a place of honor in a settlement further north where the Queen's retribution won't come for us.
So
And
you think his offer was we hand over the information in exchange for his protection from the Queen?
That would be the leverage. Look,
And what would he do with it, Stio?
Yeah. Is the Gesto around and kind of eavesdropping on this, or has he kind of squirreled himself away with the underling?
I unless there's a reason for him to not be here, I think he'll be here while this is being discussed. Yes, he's listening, but he's not volunteered an opinion yet.
Yeah,
But he's been with us for all of this, so he's kind of aware of the situation.
You can't. The Gesto is a fairly stubborn individual. You can't imagine him he definitely won't want to give the information to the Queen. His thing that he's made perfectly clear is he is not giving his information to the Queen. And his only concern seems to be to find a way to Symbar so that he personally can go there, get enough loot to live richly for the rest of his days, and that's all he gives a shit about. He does not want to work for the Queen. He doesn't want to work for the High Chieftain. He doesn't want to. He's perfectly happy with you burning the way to Symbar as long as he can get there.
Yeah, he's
and then when he's coming back, he ain't telling anyone else where it is.
He's an entirely straightforward treasure hunter in that regard.
He absolutely. This is certainly the impression you've had from him this entire time. All he cares about is giving himself a company retirement.
Look, the Queen's no enemy of mine, but I'm concerned at this point it would be foolish of me not to consider myself an enemy of the Queen.
Passing the information on to the Queen or to the Rangers is going to bring the whole of Ambria to wherever Symbar is, to cut down the swathes of forest if needs be, to build a road there, to whatever ends that goes, is one option. The other option is we pass on the information to the High Chieftain and the barbarians. Perhaps that buys us some degree of protection, but there is still a war waiting to happen if it hasn't started already.
I think giving the information to Tharaban and not to the Queen makes a war more likely. And the war might happen regardless. But if Tharaban has this information, the Queen clearly wants it. She's coming for the plateau.
Tharaban's argument appeared to revolve around the idea that the best way to keep the information safe was to share it with him. There is a case to be made that says the best way to keep the information safe is to share it with nobody.
I'm beginning to agree. I think
we'll make enemies of Tharaban as well as the Queen, but at this point we are already faced with making at least one enemy that we cannot possibly hope to win against. The
I'm-
best we can hope for is a retirement in a place like this.
I think we're in a lot of trouble no matter what we do. At the moment, I think the route forward that seems most likely to not be disastrous and also to enable us to perhaps make something from all of this is to destroy the way to find where Simba is as we go, as we've done so far in Symbaroum. Perhaps we go to Simba ourselves, return, hopefully, and say, is the worst. There's horrible corruption there. There's nothing good there. It's the worst place we've ever been. Horrible, deadly creatures. And then if we've been there, perhaps a few years down the line, we sell what we got from them in underhand ways so as not to reveal where it came from, and perhaps we can get out of this alive. That, to me, seems like perhaps the only successful route through this absolute catastrophe of a situation we found ourselves in.
Sounds good.
Well,
Sounds good, my
annoys me-
changeling friend.
What annoys me is that I feel like we've had so many people come forward and give their opinions on the lost city of Simba. But there are several people whose opinions I would very much like to hear that are still very far away from here.
Such as?
Well, Lightbringer de Saba was very skilled at banishing corruption when it came to saving the Queen. Maybe she would have a perspective. Maybe she would be able to speak to the Queen and change her from whatever course she is taking.
I think De Sabre is embroiled in her own war at this point.
Yes.
De Gesto is kind of gnawing on some kind of slightly potato-like vegetable, and says, Queen's group didn't seem to be working with the Church's group, did they?
They did not.
No.
They have being Ambrian in common. Their interests don't seem to align much beyond that.
And then there's these new Templars.
Yeah, the Church are busy with their own war.
Not busy enough to not send black cloaks.
This is true.
I wonder what happened to that iconoclast priest. What was his name?
Savola, is it Savola you're referring to?
Savola.
And his kid, or the
Well-
boy that was with him.
Was he still in hiding when we left?
He had been sporadically kind of out of hiding, but then for a while, but then had kind of receded again in
Right.
sort of recent weeks.
Anyway, I suggest we don't post a watch tonight. These people know the forest, and pretty clear we weren't followed this far. Get a good night's sleep. Goodness knows it might be our last for a while.
Much as it goes against my instincts, if there is anywhere safe out of where we've been in weeks, and possibly for the next however long, I'm inclined to agree.
Okay. So, with that in mind, unless anyone else has anything else they want to bring up, then we will move over a night. And a night well spent on comfortable furs in this tent with the the slightly, it's still fairly chilly night air because it's only the beginning of spring, but within the tent it's quite pleasant, and there's just a soft breeze through the tent flap coming off the lake. You all wake up in the morning. You wake up with the dawn light shining through the fabric, and those of you who wake up first wake up to the sound of the headman Maram standing by the entrance to the tent and calling out to see if you are awake.
Yep, some of us are, at least.
Well, everyone who can decide they are awake or asleep as needed. Maram strides inside the tent, bids you good morning, and says, if you are still set on your journey, I and my people have 2 offers we would accept in return for our guiding you to Yeferon. First, any offer of useful equipment or Ambrian coin. We do have some use for this. Not overly so, but enough where it could be payment. We would ask for 3 of your thala or equipment of equivalent value. I apologize for the amount, but taking you to Yeferon carries with it a danger to my folk. The other is a service you could perform for us. There has been another group of armed, equipped Ambrians not far to the north. If you could find whether they are a threat, and if they are, drive them off. Either of these, we will provide you transport on boats. You will be taken to Yeferon as soon as the agreement has been made. It is not a long trip. We will wait offshore for 24 hours and will return each day for 3 days at noon and stay an hour. If you are there, we will bring you back to our shore along with anything you bring. The boat crew will judge whether you can be returned to this village or left either further north or south as per your wishes. I will leave you to discuss which of our terms you wish to agree to, if either. If you wish neither, we can tell you of a way with which you can safely reach your lands again.
This is very thoughtful and generous. Thank you.
He sketches what you feel is sort of a slight impression of an Ambrian bow and walks out of the tent.
I cannot believe that I am about to try to sell you all on the idea of passing up spending 3 thala in preference for going to have a fight.
DeGesto has kind of stirred himself awake and is sort of like scratching and sort of detangling at his messy beard and says, 3 thala's nothing for this, but information.
Information, and also the agreement that we've reached between ourselves that every step that we take along this journey, we do our best to cover our tracks. If that's another group of Ambrians set for Yeferon, we need to change that.
And it saves 3 thala.
To piss on the 3 thala. Like, I can't believe that I'm arguing for this, but I think that's the thing that we have to do, is that we have to go and confront these people.
You won't be pissing on the 3 thala when it buys us a fine meal back at Thistlehold.
I dream of the day that we will be allowed to walk through the gates of Thistlehold and live. That is a wonderful dream.
Oh, it'll come true, Alindra, trust me.
The counterpoint to this is speed is of the essence, and I appreciate that this group here is a group we're potentially racing against. But we don't know what is happening back on Carvosti, how fast other groups are moving. By the sounds of it, Yeferon may well take care of this group, whether they get there or not. And we could potentially, who knows how, if we have to track down this group, deal with them in one way or another, get back here, it could be days that we delay ourselves, when it seems like there's a high likelihood if they ever make it to Yeferon, they'll die there anyway.
But, I mean, the fact that they haven't approached Zarek would, well, it doesn't seem like they're planning on working with them. So what harm could they potentially do to the Zarek on the way to Yeferon Isle?
Assuming
Hasn't clearly brought it up because he feels threatened by them.
Have I missed something?
Yes,
I
Theo.
think we've all missed something. Oh, you're awake.
Oh, Prius's tits. Oh, one lie-in. I want one lie-in.
The day's happening, Theo, whether you like it or not.
Steel will quite begrudgingly start strapping on bits of armor, and you have everything in hand then?
The Zareks have agreed to take us. We have a choice of two prices we can pay. One is 3 thaler.
Whoa.
The other is go up the lakeshore to the north to deal with a group of Ambrians who have got the Zareks worried. And I think we have to do the second one. I mean, we at least need to find out how far north they are. If it's like 5 days walk, I'm not doing it. If it's a couple of hours,
you're all clear on exactly what is implied by deal with them, yeah?
we were asked to drive them off. The point is,
in
I
the
think,
wider context of things, if any single one of them gets away alive, then we get murder and treason, which is a delightful cocktail.
Oh, because then there will be witnesses that we were here. They'll be able to place us here if anybody survives.
What about the idea of potentially dealing with them? The thing that we must do while we're here is get to Yeferon and back. What about doing that and then dealing with them?
We pay the 3 thaler to go now and promise to deal with them if there's still a problem when we come back.
They tell us where they are.
Well,
can we get more information about them?
We don't promise to do it, but if we return from Yeferon in a state where we feel capable of doing it, the thing that I don't want to do is get in a big fight with another group, end up all beaten up. Maybe we might even lose people, and then have to go to Yeferon in a horrible way. Yeferon's going to be bad enough as it is.
You're on mute there.
Sorry, DeGusto, I can't hear you.
Which is an unusual situation. Or, to add a third option to the pot, we agree to deal with these Ambrians for them. We go look at what these Ambrians are, and then we either deal with them, or we come back and say, sorry, we couldn't 3 thaler. Either way, we get to see who they are, and we get to make an informed choice.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. If we can ask, especially if we can ask how far they are and it's not too distant.
I'll go ask this headman how far they are. He kind of starts grumbling and getting to his feet.
Still leaves the problem of the witnesses, though.
Well, perhaps we go up quietly, we scope the place out, and if we feel like somebody needs to go and have a conversation, we send one of the less recognizable ones of us.
At
to
this
Gesto,
point,
Malamai, Revelia.
Malamai
this
kind of
point,
nods,
Steel-
says, "I'll do it."
At this point, Steel, having mostly finished getting on his heavy armor, will kind of jump up and down a few times just to kind of test it out and also remind people of just how obnoxiously loud anything he tries to do actually is.
There is a lovely. I know it's not unusual for Matt to start going on about the things we don't consider about, historical arms and armor and stuff, but plate armor is really fucking loud.
Yep.
DeGesto comes back in a few moments later and again scratching and kind of tugging at his beard. Half an hour away.
All right.
Half an hour to the north. They don't want to lead us there. They don't want to be seen investigating them.
We have to send at least some of us, and we have to at least go look. I don't know if it makes sense to send all of us. Perhaps this is a job for a scouting party.
Sounds good to me. If they're only half an hour away, we go, we look, maybe we come back and decide we all go and drive them away. Maybe we don't.
I mean, there's also the possibility of trying to talk them out of this, yes?
Witnesses,
Of course.
Witnesses.
Depends who it is. I know you prefer to deal with these things with a good conscience, Arendar, but if it's more Queen's Rangers, we'll have limited options, I'll tell you that.
I think how or whether we deal with them depends a lot on who they are.
Yeah, I mean, it could be that it's just a bunch of fresh-faced, adventurers who have never been in the forest before, and we can leave them to it. Like, they're not going to...
They could be perfectly innocent rogues like ourselves.
This could all be perfectly true. However, I felt the need to state my opinion out loud for myself, if no one else.
You're a good soul, Arendar.
The
forest is not kind to good souls.
I don't want this to turn into killing Ambrians, because if that starts, we will have to finish that job. And though it may surprise you to hear, I don't want this on my conscience today. So I'm very open to alternative ways to ensure that this is not going to be a problem for us or for the Zareks.
We don't need to even talk about those alternative ways until we know who the fuck they are.
Yes.
All right, then. Come on. Ascarai and whoever else wants to come. You recall that DeGesto, despite how he looks, is surprisingly quiet on his feet when he wants to be.
Aaron, I reckon we might need at least one diplomat to go with them.
So
if this is just a scouting party, though.
The plan is to see who they are, return, discuss how we deal with it, then go and deal with it in whatever way we decide is best. Is that correct?
Yeah, let's keep it quiet, and let's have as many of the people who do go as possible be not the heroes of the sinkhole.
Malamai nods and starts picking up his gear.
DeGesto, Malamai, Revelia. I think Revelia will look deeply uncomfortable at the idea of a stealth mission and will sort of meekly decline.
I'll go, but I'll stay back.
You can also change your appearance.
Yeah. I can try.
I'm going to leave the very nice cloak behind Ascarai.
I suppose
It's quite
so, but
distinctive.
take care of it for me, Aaron. Don't trust any of these others.
Aaron, I would...
Right, for that, I'm taking my bloody lie-in, cheeky changeling.
If you would like to go, Aaron, I think that could be useful in case diplomacy breaks out. But perhaps a change of travel clothes?
I fear that me going would be the reason why I would need to be there?
Oh God, I've got a head.
I'm actually going to take a little moment here and have Father Anton stand up and kind of draw his hood up on his robes and say, I will go to speak with them if need be. They may respect the treatise of a man of Prios, and I think we can solve. We can topple two birds with one stone here, Ascarai. He holds out his hand to indicate for your mask.
You want my mask? They're gonna think
they will not recognize, but they will not. No. Plenty of Theurgs wear masks.
Okay.
They do. They're often kind of gold or gold painted ones rather than purely wooden. But poor Theurgs certainly occasionally have wooden masks.
Ascarai will kind of take his mask off and look at it a bit.
You're a genius, Anton.
All right, Father, but know that this mask must be returned safely. Don't get in any scraps.
Of course. He takes it and kind of places it on. You're not exactly the... Actually, I think you are quite similar builds, aren't you? Because I think you're both quite... Because Anton's quite tall, right?
Ascarai is short. Ascarai is a short.
Oh, Ascarai. Okay, never mind.
Yeah.
Anton is tall and skinny, if I recall.
Yeah.
Do you have similarly shaped faces and heads?
Let's go with that. Yeah. Under a hood, I don't think it particularly matters. It's like, it'll just fix in place. I don't think you haven't been particularly precious around your mask with your companions, right? They'll all have seen you, your face without it.
At times, yes.
I'd imagine you sleep without it and stuff like that, perhaps.
I think it's more in the town that Ascarai is concerned about keeping his mask on. Out in the forest, he's more kind of free with it.
Sure. Okay, then it sounds like we've got a little mini mission here. Although our only player on it is Ascarai, but that's fine. If you go outside the tent, the headman will talk to you just as he talked to DeGesto, and will say, if you merely follow the shoreline directly to the north, around half an hour, you will see there is an overhang of stone. Around that, they have tents, lean-tos, fires.
Okay. Well, we're going to go and take a look. Depending on how it goes and who we see, we'll return and deal with it as a party if needed.
He nods and thanks you.
Head off down the shoreline.
Okay. It's a very quiet feeling spring morning. I think that, sorry, I was going to say, Sam, you've got a lot of background hiss, so if you, stay on mute for and essentially all you can hear most of the way is the kind of crunch of stones underfoot as you walk along the shoreline. After about half an hour, presumably when you feel you're kind of getting closer, how sneaky are you being along the entire journey, if you see what I mean?
If we know they're half an hour north, I think probably 20 minutes of not being sneaky and the last 10 minutes of being sneaky.
Absolutely. Yeah. That sounds good. And I won't ask everyone on this to make a discreet roll. Do we want a discreet roll from the person with the highest discreet? Because I know who that is, and it ain't you.
I guess they guessed it.
It is. He has discreet 16.
Yeah. I think he's probably leading this mission, right?
Maybe. He's less familiar with the forest than Ascarai is, so perhaps it's a bit of a joint leadership. But either way, he's very light on his feet. And he's the one who comes up with the idea. Basically, there's a stretch between the kind of the pebbly shoreline and the kind of soft earth of of where the trees start. There's like a stretch of moss, essentially, that starts on the stones and runs to being over the earth and over kind of the rocks scattered around. And he comes up with the idea of walking on that. And as soon as you do, basically, like, you can't really hear yourselves moving along this kind of bed of moss as you're moving around. Ascarai, can you give me a vigilant roll, please?
Nope, I rolled a 19.
Well then, you know what? I'll give you another chance for it. I'll give you DeGesto is also at the front, right? So I'll roll for him as well. His vigilant isn't amazing, but we'll see. No. In that case, I'm going to say you all stumble into the camp.
Uh-oh.
And what you find is this. What seems to be an abandoned lean-to campsite that until recently seems to have been large enough for maybe 10 or so individuals, more or less. It was relatively well put together and also well situated in the cover of this outcropping of stone that provided both shelter and blocked a view of the site from the lake. The only equipment that you can see scattered around that's been left behind, you can see a couple of badly worn cooking pots, and near pulled up onto the shore from the waters of the lake is what looks like a slightly battered but still functional rowboat. There is no sign of any person.
Is there any sign of how recently people were here? Like, is the fire still alight? Is it still hot?
Oh, well, that's a question, isn't it? Could you give me a cunning roll at -2, please?
Okay, I'll need an 8. I rolled another 19.
No, you really can't tell. And maybe someone else will have a look, but like, is there anything else you want to, like, you haven't, like, I won't say you haven't like searched it or anything else, you know what I mean? This is just your surface level information.
I think I would look around to see if there's any signs of who might this be. Like, are there soldiers' rations here, or is it just like normal food? Like, any indication of who might have been here?
Absolutely. Well, why don't you give me is this at the kind of main camp rather than the shoreline?
Yeah, at the main.
Why don't you give me a vigilant roll then, please?
Okay, that one I make just with a 16.
The only thing you find at all is that on a tree near the edge of the campsite, there is a recent carving of the son of Prios. But honestly, that doesn't tell you much other than an Ambrian, realistically.
Okay, and the boats, there's still like boats pulled up on the shoreline?
There is a single battered rowboat with oars still in it, pulled up on the shore nearby.
If I look out across the water, is there any, like, can I see anybody in the distance sailing off or rowing off?
No. Are you going to the shoreline to do this?
Yeah.
Give me a vigilant roll at -4, please.
Okay, I need a 12. 17. Terrible rolls today.
Nope. But you know what? I will give you a backup for that, because I think that let's say Tgesto or Malamai will be with you there. 1 second, I just want to look at Tgesto's stats on that. Yeah, okay. Has anyone got Antom's sheet as well? I think Mike left his sheet in the Discord, didn't he?
Might have to go and fish it out. Would either DeGesto or Malamai have thought to see if they could see any like tracks going off in any direction, or?
Well, funnily enough, that's what people are rolling for.
Antom, what stat of Antom do you want?
Vigilant. Yeah.
13, which
Roll
is
that.
way higher than I thought.
Roll that at a -4, please.
Okay. Need to. Nope. In Antom, maybe I'm just taking on Antom's rolls. I rolled a 13.
That's fine. Okay. Well, lucky you, DeGesto is with you. And lucky you, DeGesto rolled a 2. As you're kind of like looking out over the lake, you hear DeGesto kind of hunch over near the boat and say, Ascarai, You're better with tracks than I am.
You found something?
One person, I think. He's hunched over and indeed seems to be looking at a pair of kind of what look like. Well, you know what? You give me a cunning roll and also another cunning roll at -2, please.
Okay.
Do you get bonuses for when it's tracking people as well?
I get bonuses for finding the following tracks. Yeah. Pathfinder. I have. I get a second. I get 2 chances to roll one following tracks.
Okay, I think you can have 2 chances on both of these.
Okay, good. I need them. Okay, I succeeded in the harder one once. The other one I failed both times.
Okay, I'll tell you this. They seem to be human tracks. And your best estimate is that they're sometime these have been tracked into this soft earth near the shore sometime in the last 2 weeks or so. And you'd say on the longer end of that.
Okay. If I look around the campsite, are there tracks just like in the campsite that
there are some no, they don't. There are some that are kind of muddied around, but they're difficult to tell because they're over the top of each other and stuff. These are quite a distinctive set of tracks, and it's definitely one person. One person came ashore. Maybe your best guess would be like a week or 2 weeks or so ago. They dragged ashore, climbed out, and walked east.
Okay. Someone's been here. I'll say to the guest, someone's been here and walked east, but one person, as you say. The rest of the people, I mean, this is a camp for more than one person. I don't know where the others have been or gone.
Malamai says they didn't come back.
Okay. And the one person who perhaps did went east. Well, I guess. Do we consider this dealt with? Do we want to follow these tracks?
How old did you say they were?
At least a week.
What's the point? They're either dead or they're a week away.
Okay. Well, then I suppose we head back and tell them there's no threat here.
Why am I not satisfied with this?
It's not clear what's... I mean, we don't know what's happened. We don't know who they were. There's a symbol of Prios or Ambrians, but that doesn't narrow it down. Perhaps slightly more likely to be the Black Cloaks, but I feel like they'd have probably fared better than one of them returning.
Maybe we'll find out when we get to Yeferon.
Yeah. Then I suppose we head back.
All right. He kind of slaps his knees and stands up with a kind of slightly grunt of pain. Okay. You travel back to the Zarek village, and the others of you see them return, kind of emerging. You see them from quite a way away. The shoreline itself is quite clear of trees, so you see them coming. A good 5 minutes or so before they arrive back. The headman kind of walks forward to meet you on the path to the village. News? Any news?
There is no one at that camp. As best we could tell, they have been to Yeferon, or at least left their camp, and only one of their party returned, and he headed east. Or they headed east. There would seem to be no threat from the north at the moment.
We first saw them 3 weeks ago and have not seen them for the past few days, so this makes some sense.
I would say more than a week ago they headed east, so nothing to worry about. But now,
I and my village thank you for calming our hearts of worry on this. Your boats are waiting out on the water near the shore are 3 long canoes. Each of them has Zarek, like a couple of Zareks in them already.
Okay. I'll turn to Maram and say the instructions we were given is to set out between 2 islands.
We know the way.
Okay.
We know the way because we know to avoid it. Is this clear?
Yes.
Then I thank you for the aid you provided and wish you luck.
Thank you.
He turns away, and the Zarek await you in their canoes.
Pack up and load out, I suppose.
Okay.
Yeah.
Climbing into the canoes, as soon as you are in there, the Zarek start kind of paddling themselves forward into the waters of the lake. Is there anything anyone wants to kind of do on this journey, or kind of particularly, any kind of agency we want to exercise?
I think maybe to discuss with the Zarek in whatever canoe Askar is in with why do they fear Yeferon? Do they know anything about Yeferon? Do they have any information that might help us or give some insight into what we're about to face?
Do you speak Zarek?
No.
No. Let's say you're in the canoe with Anton, so Anton can speak to them. So you're kind of getting this sort of secondhand from Anton, and he's kind of listening, and occasionally, because he doesn't speak really fluent Zarek, so he's kind of having to pause and like ask them questions. And as you kind of like paddle across the surface of the lake, he says that Yeferon is famous to everyone who travels the waters here. They call it the island on the brink of the spirit world. It is a place where ghosts or wraiths howl and the dead hold court. It cannot be found normally because it lies beyond a hole in the fabric of the world. He says this is because there are tunnels there to something called the darkness below. And they have torn a hole in our world. It's not... It doesn't sound pleasant.
No. I don't know if that's given me a better sense of what we're about to face, other than that I know we're going to need you, Anton.
He says that he doesn't know that much about it, and that maybe the elders of some other villages might tell more tales, but there's something about a queen who rebelled or attacked the High Chieftain. and a curse they brought about. A curse that tore the world open?
I guess that lines up with what we've heard and what we know.
As you move forward over the surface of the lake, I think it's fair to say off the back of this, conversation maybe dies down slightly. The calm waters of Volgoma stretch around you over the course of the next minutes, spinning out to an hour or so. And then a wave of odd dizziness washes across all of you. To the north, receding behind you, is the high peak of what the Zareks have called the near mountainous Isle of Vea. To the south, the lower rambling expanse of Heanan. Ahead, a stretch of open water circled by small scattered islets. The dizziness turns to a sudden nausea as the world seems to momentarily spin and shift around you. The soft patter of spring rain and the gentle breeze over the lake die with an unnatural swiftness. And ahead of you, a low, dark shore leading to crumbling ruins, and then to a ridge of black hills. In the distance is a keening noise, similar to wind gusting through structures, but the air remains deathly still around you. The Zareks have stopped their long canoes, and more than one of them are brushing their fingers across green markings on their faces or arms. The kind of leading Zarek in your canoe, Askarai, turns to you, her face serious and strained. Her voice seems loud and echoing over the freshly stark silence of the lake as she reaches out her hand and points. Yeferon. And I think we'll leave the session there for the week. Thank you to everyone who has watched or played. Before we go forwards, please pop anything you want, comments or questions or whatever into the chat. And in the meantime, I'll do a little bit of promo and then we'll return to that. If you check out the links below, they are to things like YouTube and Twitch. You're watching on one, please check out the other one. There's also links to our social media, our Discord, our Patreon. If there are things that might fascinate you, then do investigate those as well. We're currently running a number of weekly campaigns, although we always have a kind of very shifting schedule in summer because people get busy in summer. Mondays is typically Vaesen, but that's on a bit of a break at the moment and will return mid-September. Wednesdays is Symbaroum, that's this. Thursdays is all sorts of stuff. Tomorrow, which is Thursday, will be the last installment of the Cincinnati Chronicles, our long-running World of Darkness anthology series. I love to promo everything we've done, but I would say if you turn up for the last episode of that, I despair of any level of understanding you might have of what's going on. It's a fairly complex tale. But hey, start it from the beginning on YouTube. Then over the coming weeks, we've got the start of Wicked Ones from Sam. Sam is GMing that, which is Wicked Ones, if I am right in saying, is a Forged in the Dark system, which is basically Dungeon Keeper, the game. So you're playing the bad guys defending a dungeon from heroes using that Forged in the Dark, Blades in the Dark mechanics. That sounds really cool. They'll be playing that, and then also sometime on Thursday coming up, probably in October, will be the conclusion to Pierre's Big Wet short story, that apocalyptic survival thing, and then there'll be more stuff coming as well. We also run one-shots on a monthly basis, the next one of which is this Saturday. That's Saturday 26th of October, where we will August, where we will be playing Hell Knight. I'll be running that this Saturday. We'll be going live at 3:00 in the afternoon BST, or your equivalent time zone. It's a Doom biker apocalyptic TTRPG thing, retro 80s metal. Yes. Tune in for that. That'll be good fun. Okay, and also, thank you. Walks in Storms is our most recent follow. I suspect they may have been thanked by someone already, or maybe not. Either way, thank you, Walks in Storms. And we've had 2 resubscribes today from ATCB Gaming and the ever lovely Night Bites. So thank you very much for those resubscribes. John, what are we doing with the old questions and comments?
We have this helpful thing from Night Bites.
Yep, there we go. That's I believe Nightbites was typing that as I was saying a simplified version of it. Composite sounds modern, but made with wooden horn, as a lot of bows where it is a composite. The whole point as a composite bow is that certain parts of the bow flex more than other parts of the bow, i.e. the ends of the bow like flex round, but the center stays. You also find, you could also, I'm not sure if it's technically composite or not. I think it probably is. Also, with a lot of later war bows or long bows, if you want to call them that, you would find that the main difference is that the outer curve of the bow was made of a stronger, more rigid wood, and the inner curve of the bow would be made from something like yew, which is a much more springy wood, so you could get a lot of draw on it.
Yes.
I definitely think I was doing what Nightbites suggested, that confusing this with like the Olympic style, like
with the like little wheel, like the the cams and pulleys that they're saying there, the wheel things,
We also have, it's from Sam.
I really wish Matt had gone all in on getting everything nautical as wrong as possible just for Chris. I tried, like, I won't lie, I didn't look up how boats work. I just looked at things like how fast it travels. And
I just really wish you'd been like, they're gonna like 40 knots, with the flappy thing. It was flapping around.
Someone
the wind is dying down, so they've unfurled the sails.
Someone
to make more of it.
Another can of Symbaric petrol into the furnace.
Yeah.
Is it, like, actual question? Is it nautical if it's freshwater?
Yeah, I think so.
Not even I know that. That's a question for Dr. Wikipedia.
I mean, it works the same, apart from that the wind tends to be lower. But and you can't really punt on the open ocean, I suppose. But well, kind of just offshore, I suppose. Looking up stuff, and like I measured Lake Volgoma and the route they were taking, and measured out like how far they could go a day, and worked out that on like, unless they were really pushing themselves, it would be like for 8 hours of actual concentrated travel, it would be about 10 kilometers an hour.
Comment, like, subscribe if you appreciate this level of detail.
Steve says the boat driver grasps the fleam wheel tightly and honks the horn. Yeah, absolutely. I threw in starboard, Chris. There you go. I could have said the right side.
In fairness, I didn't even notice, because I just like all the bits you researched and did well didn't trigger my sense because you'd researched them and done them well.
Exactly.
I noticed starboard. I'm like, it's to the north. It's on the right. That's starboard.
Yeah.
Correct. Good work, Matt.
There we go.
Further follow up on bow information.
Yeah, use of heartwood and sapwood in the bow. Yes, that's a composite too, technically. Yeah. Because occasionally you get the composites right where they're like sort of like toothed in near the top, so you have that like sort of thing where the top and bottom parts. But I know a lot of war bows and long bows have that inner and out heartwood and sapwood, as you say. To give it that extra flex, because you need that, and you also need big fucking muscles to draw it.
I love these educational bits of the streams.
Yeah, they're great.
Yeah.
In the case of like the eventual use of really big war bows, we have. I used to be an archaeologist. That's why I say things like "we have." What I mean is archaeologists have.
We have in the basement.
There are the remains, validated remains. Obviously, England and Wales were notorious for their use of the war bow as a weapon of war. Other nations did as well, but the English and Welsh made a special use of war bows in medieval combat. And there are bodies of archers, of professional archers, that we have. And the development on the bone structure of their upper halves is like crazy, like bodybuilder level crazy, because it takes an incredible amount of power to draw a large warbow or longbow. Yeah.
I did watch an interesting video a while ago about someone comparing like popular media depictions of archers with what archers might actually look at. And it's like, why are all archers in like role-playing games or on TV just like skinny twinks when in real
Sure.
life they'd be like
Oh yeah,
half
it
hench.
takes
I think-
far more power to draw a warbow than it would to use a spear or a sword. Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
Legolas has a lot to answer for, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Well, people, I mean, as well,
Damn him.
people constantly overrate the strength it takes to use a sword as well. It takes a lot of strength to use a sword concertedly for a long period of time. But usually when people pick up a sword, they're like, this is way lighter than I thought it would be. Pretty much I would say you've got to be a pretty strong person to like consistently use a Zweihander. But other than that, like a regular sword or even just a long sword is not, it's not that heavy. Whereas drawing a bow or certain kinds of bows is very intense.
From what serves, the main problem with holding a sword, it's not necessarily that it's heavy, it's that you're holding it for a long time at really weird angles.
Yeah, sure.
I remember when I was doing buckler training for a while, and it's only like a 1 kilogram weight, but most of the time you're holding it like
you
that,
hold a buckler
or like
straight
that,
out. Yeah,
and like holding anything just like at a weird angle for any length of time does your shoulder in.
Although you got to remember that people from that period were far more used to manual labor and holding like that kind of tensile like strength in muscles would have been a lot more developed than
as random fantasy roleplay groups go. We are weirdly overqualified collectively on the subject of like medieval combat.
Medieval combat. Yeah, sure. Yeah. It's all very interesting though, and as well the notion as well that when we say archers, we have the bodies of archers, what we mean is we have the bodies of soldiers trained in the use of a warbow, because this kind of like total war notion that like armies have units that are specialized in particular things, it isn't actually really how warfare happened until like the time of like not really until like the 1700s. To a certain degree, you had like groups of mercenaries that might be more like advanced than soldiers. Like you're buying a regiment of crossbowmen, or you're buying a regiment of pikemen, or whatever. But really, until pike and shot, like soldiers were just kind of soldiers, and all the soldiers you had who had bows would stand over there while they're firing, and weren't expected to be like, they're the archers. They stand at the back. They don't fight. They're people with bows, and they fire until the enemy closes on them, and then they fight them. Like you didn't have that kind of like unit separation. So anyway, if people want, I will literally do a stream on this shit at some point, because it's insanely interesting to me.
I think it's worth it.
Unless people know I have professional academic qualifications in this, so I'm not just talking shit, as I do about lots of subjects, but not particularly this. Yeah,
I do agree. It's very interesting, and also like, I mean, as we've alluded to, that people have, I think, a very like cultural influences make people think certain things that like some of it might be right, some of it might be completely wrong, but like the basis of most people's knowledge, including my own, is just like what you see in TV shows and
like historical TV shows,
movies, which is like
things.
Could be right, could be bullshit.
Yeah, and I'm not like especially in fantasy settings, I'm not a stickler for these things. So like if I'm watching Lord of the Rings or whatever, I don't start going into the mode where there's a lot of discussion in like military history fantasy crossover circles that, for example, like dwarves always use axes and it's exactly the wrong weapon for them. They should use spears. But stuff like that, which doesn't particularly bother me, but like when like stuff like Vikings or other historical, sorry, I just was hit a moment by Vikings and how shit it is historically. Like other kind of like historical things, I basically can't watch most of them because they're so full of these kind of tropes that it's like, and what annoys me is I think so much of the actual historical stuff is actually cooler and would be great on screen, but it doesn't match people's perception. So in the same way that every historical fiction ever has everyone just covered in a layer of mud and shit, and they just live in mud and shit, it's like, why would that be? Anyway,
I think you're underestimating how many people in modern times go around caked in a layer of mud and shit.
That's true.
Sure, but I still think it's overestimating how much of that mud and shit is visible. But it's also like it's just the drabification of history as well. Like again, how medieval people are portrayed as just all wearing brown, and, like dull. Medieval people definitely wore much more colourful clothes than we do as a standard.
It's a bit like the thing with the classical statues that we think of them as being like white and very clean, and in reality they're like gaudy, bright colors.
Like people's only yearning for color and like joy in their life only happened as soon as we invented the camera.
I need to not correct but clarify a thing about the statues. Like from analyzing the particles of paint left on the statues, like they look gaudy based on the paint that was applied directly to statues, but that's only a base layer. Because as anyone who is painted or
they were painted like miniatures.
Yeah. They would have been probably incredibly realistic. It's just
they tried to
that we have make them look like sort of a horrifying Victorian fairgrounds nightmares.
They probably looked very similar to if you go into like a lot of cathedrals and like look at, especially cathedrals on continental Europe more than here, because again, medieval cathedrals here, you look at the interior and the stonework and it's all blank stone. That's because it was stripped off and that they were painted, because of course they were painted, because and you go to like continental European cathedrals and you look at them and they're all painted on the inside and like all that. They probably look quite similar to that because
I also have this is spawning into a bigger thing, but I also have a big bugbear around like Matt already mentioned it, but clothing, and everyone wears brown, except when you have like a certain tribe of Bretons who will wear blue. And yes, I'm referencing a specific show which color coded their different like counties.
Which show is that? I can't.
The Last Kingdom. Everyone wore brown until he went to
Brittany.
Yeah, and then everyone wore blue because they had woad. So everyone wore. It's not there are so many like natural materials.
I mean, you know why that is, right? Specifically in that, it's because someone on that show who made those decisions went, well, Brittany's in France, so they're French. So French people like blue, right? Because I don't know, people in other countries, we definitely have kind of a notion that blue is kind of a color that French people wear a lot. Blue, because like it matches the flag, like the fleur-de-lis color and right stuff like that, I think. And they basically are like, they're blue French people, even though the Bretons definitely weren't fucking French.
This is great.
Anyway, there
like
were
the Normans. The Normans aren't French. Anyway.
French Vikings, isn't it?
With the emphasis on the Viking and not the French.
Yeah, well, the clue's in the name, isn't it?
Yeah. But there we go. Anyway, sorry, this is really derailed. Steve, can't wait to fact check the heck out of Hell Knight. Yeah. People will be coming back after Hell Knight going like, you got the torque wrong on that.
Yeah.
That Hell Ride definitely shouldn't have that horsepower. So there we go. Have we got any more? Now, there's an idea for a series. Matt is forced to watch popular but incorrect historically inspired drama and comment on it at length. It would just be me swearing for the most part.
I would like to say we've had like Steve, Night Bites, and Don't Kick Food all put in like positive approval of this. So
yeah.
I could just picture the logo now, which is just like Legolas surfing the door down the staircase.
and just like
and you just looking just enraged.
Yeah, just like a clickbait shot of me like
yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. But the thing is, it's not even just simple stuff. Why does no one have a shield? Why does no one have a helmet? I went on a rant on the Discord about shields.
Yeah,
literally
shields.
The most important innovation, the most important weapon you can have in pre-industrial warfare is a shield. and they never fucking. If they do have them, they throw them away so they can use the sword better. What?
Yeah, it's not really come up on stream yet, but Revelia has been earning XP and has recently spent it on Shield Fighter and is basically going to throw her spear away because she'd be an idiot not to.
Wait, hang on. Whose spear is that? Sorry,
it's just a spear.
No,
with no particular backstory.
Yeah,
it's the spear I loaned her.
It's Theo's backup spear. It definitely.
Yeah, well, she's gonna throw it away because shields are way better.
Oh.
Why have I got this?
Yeah. All right. Have we got anything else, John?
The last one, the lead-in is we had a bot turn up. I banned them. I threw down the bot hammer. Nightbites always like to see the bots get the hammer, and Stephen came in with the Twitch hammer.
You are welcome.
I can't see us topping that, and I can't see us bottoming that. So there we go, folks. Thank you very much for watching and paying attention, or watching and not. And we'll see you next week for more of the Twitch Hammer, where we reach Yeferon Isle, which doesn't seem foreboding at all, does it? So we'll have fun there. Take care and stay safe, everyone. Bye bye. Bye bye. Bye 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 bye.